What's the greatest difficulty of the pursuit of knowledge? What is the greatest burden of knowledge? What's the worst thing that could happen in the pursuit of knowledge? And Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he said that the greatest difficulty of knowledge is saving yourself from it. That sounds weird. Saving yourself from it. What does that mean? That means that a person starts to find pride as a result of the knowledge that they've attained. A person likes to hear themselves rather than listen to other people. A person starts to pursue that of this world, which is not permissible, using that knowledge, and that knowledge essentially becomes a tool for haram. And Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, we have this dua that comes, Allahumma la tahrimna khayra ma indak li sharri ma indana. Allahumma la tahrimna khayra ma indak. Oh Allah, do not forbid us from the good that is with you, li sharri ma indana, because of the evil that is with us. This pursuit of knowledge cannot become a pursuit of your own self-righteousness or your own pride. So how do you keep yourself humble? How do you keep yourself accountable? Well, number one, in secular knowledge, you pursue, you attain, and then you get your degree, you move on, and then you work in your professional space, and everything that's not being put to use, you no longer have to reference. And so you kind of move on solely from pursuit to knowledge. And the only time you learn is when you want to grow in a particular expertise. All right? When it comes to Islam, you don't get to just learn and stop and preach. All right? You always have to be engaged in a state of learning. If that pursuit of learning stops, then you're going to open yourself up to all of the diseases of knowledge. So whether you went and studied 6 years somewhere or 10 years somewhere or whatever it may be, if you are someone who teaches, you need to make sure that you're taking in and learning a greater proportion of that. And this is something that we find very prominent in the stories of the pious predecessors, that they always stayed within a state of learning so that they did not fall to that disease of pride and that disease of falling prey to some of the pitfalls of being a knowledgeable person. I'll share with you one story, inshallah ta'ala. This story is a very precious one. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah ta'ala, was truly a mentor to his students. He loved his students. He used to buy clothes for his students. He used to visit them when they were sick. He invested in them in every capacity. And one of his greatest students, if not his greatest student, was Yaqub ibn Ibrahim, who's otherwise known as Abu Yusuf, Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, the judge Abu Yusuf. And it's really interesting because Abu Yusuf became fascinated by Abu Hanifa at a young age. And his mom was worried about him going and studying Islam, because it was like, if he goes and he studies Islam, he's going to be poor. He has such great potential. And Abu Hanifa said that, don't worry, this son of yours, the kings will eat out of his hands. I mean, this guy is a serious, this young man has some serious potential. So Abu Hanifa knew that he had potential, and he did really live up to that potential. He became the judge, Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, and an authority, not just in the space of jurisprudence, but even within states. But anyway, Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, at one point, Abu Yusuf, when he was still young, he got sick. And he thought he was going to die. So Imam Abu Hanifa was telling some of the students, so, it's a shame that he's going to die because he was my best student. This kid had the greatest potential out of them all. Now, what happens is that Abu Yusuf got better and got out of the hospital, if you will, but he recovered. And he thought to himself, well, look, if I got all that praise from Abu Hanifa, it's time for me to have my own halaqah, to start teaching. So Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he said, where's Abu Yusuf? They said, well, he started his own halaqah. So he said, well, here's the deal. I'm going to send someone to him and I'm going to get him perplexed a bit. So he sent one of his students to Abu Yusuf. He said, ask him this question. If a person takes their garment to a tailor, and the tailor, takes that garment, and then the tailor, they agree upon a day. So he takes it to him on Monday. They agree upon a day, let's say Wednesday, for the tailor to give back that cloth, that thobe. If when the person goes back to the tailor on Wednesday on the agreed upon time, the tailor says, you have no thobe. meaning I don't know what you're talking about, and he denies knowledge of it. So he basically stole the garment that was taken to him to be tailored. Then the tailor repents, and the tailor gives that person back their thobe. Okay? So Abu Hanifa said, go to Abu Yusuf and ask him this question. Say, if that happens, what happens with the money? Does the tailor get paid, or does he have to refund the money as well? So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, if he says that he has to give him back the money, tell Abu Yusuf he's wrong. And if he says that he gets to keep the money, tell him he's wrong. So Imam Abu Hanifa sends his student to Abu Yusuf. Abu Yusuf finishes teaching his class, and then he asks him that question, and Abu Yusuf is perplexed. So he says he has to return the money. Then the student says no. He said, well, then he has to keep it. The student said no. So Abu Yusuf was so confused that what does he do? He goes to Abu Hanifa to ask him the question. So he comes back to Abu Hanifa to ask him the question. And this was the point of actually showing that, look, you don't get to a point where you just stop, where you don't have to seek knowledge anymore and where you move on from this somehow. You have to keep on learning. So he goes to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, all humbled, and he says, look, someone came and asked me this question. I don't know the answer. Imam Abu Hanifa said, well, look, if when the guy took the cloth to the tailor, if the tailor intended to steal the garment from the very beginning, then he has to pay the man back. However, if the tailor actually agreed to it and the tailor had no intention of stealing, and then, at some point he got a little he got a little attached to the thobe, and he said, this is a really nice thobe, so he decided to steal it. Then he repented and he gave it back to him. He said, then the tailor gets to keep the money. Basically, you look at the start of the contract. If the contract started off batil, void, because the tailor was intending to steal it in the first place, then he has to refund the money. Otherwise, if he did the job, but he got a little swayed at some point, then he gets to keep the money. How do you know that? Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, if there's a dispute, then you see who the thobe fits better. If it fits the tailor better, or if it fits the guy better, then you'll kind of know where his intention was in the first place. So Abu Yusuf goes, oh, okay. So he says, sit down and learn before you go and you start teaching. Again, the point being is that, a person sometimes rushes to a point of teaching, but they really need to be in a pursuit of learning, and you always have to stay in that pursuit of learning. That's why the scholars said, La a'lam nisful ilm. That saying, I don't know, is actually half of knowledge. And there's a very beautiful saying from Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah. He said, knowledge is an ocean with no coast. Once you dive into it, then you never feel like you've arrived. Okay? And if you feel like you've arrived at dry land, that means you've reached arrogance and complete ignorance. So knowledge is an ocean with no coast. As you jump into it, then you recognize that you really don't know much at all, and that you will be in a lifelong pursuit because there's just so much that is out there.